Greetings, everybody. This is August 1st, Friday of this week. This is the video that I promised for y'all on Wednesday. It's something that will be helpful to you in how to navigate stories when I can't really talk about them, and what is important and what can you ignore. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff out there in the news that is where it's better to just ignore than to waste your time with it. And I am going to get to one of those stories soon, and I'm going to actually use one as an example. The name of that story is 1 year to avoid the worst impacts of climate change, or something like that. I have it in my community page, the exact title. I can't see the title right now because I am on. I'm if I close this camera, it stops filming. I could try to find it on my phone, but it would take some time. Anyway, but we're going to apply those criteria. So, what are the criteria that I apply to articles? And we're going to show what it really means. So, how to actually do it in practice. So, the first criterion that I have to apply to stories when I want to see whether they're legit is, one, no obvious reason why anyone would even bother to write the story. To post a headline like that. If somebody really believed a lot of these headlines, then they wouldn't bother. I'm going to change the order up a little bit because I think that some things belong together in that list. But there's no obvious reason why anyone would bother to write the story. Think about a lot of the headlines you see, and why aren't the people who write them in mental hospitals? And because if you're going to write a story about how we are, or say something about how we're, and Marcia Gessen is guilty about this sometimes too. Same with Jason Stanley. If you're going to write a story about how there's nothing that we can do, how we're beyond a point of no return in some respect or another, which all of them would mean extinction because of, as I've said before, we're not in normal history. We're at a moment in which we could lose everything. But and sorry for the poor production quality, by the way. I don't have my stand right now, but I'm going to make this anyway. Most of the video is going to be a screen recording anyway. Why would they even bother to write something like that? If they have values, wouldn't they be in a mental hospital? Wouldn't they have already perhaps taken or attempted to take their life? Wouldn't they have attempted to something like that? Why are they writing an article? Why are they public? Maybe it's because they don't care. And if they don't care about something like the survival of the human race, if they're able to just truck on through something like that, why would they care about being honest journalists? If all they care about is money and right now. Why would you trust them? So that's the first one, is that there's no obvious reason why somebody would write it. Then it refuses, number two, it refuses to inform. So you're left with a vague sense of hopelessness. It doesn't actually specify what is going to happen. It doesn't even do the decency of telling you the human race is going to go extinct. Probably. That's what this news means, that we're probably going to go extinct. Or whatever. They don't even have the decency of telling you that. They don't even have the decency of telling you, of describing with imagery what is actually likely to happen. They just leave you with this vague sense of dread because they want to make you feel crazy. They want to make you feel like after everything that they said, everything they said could be true, and there will still be a chance to recover or whatever. Or there could. Even though your eyes and your brain are telling you that if what they're saying is true, it would be the end. They want you to think that there's something more that you could read that could give from them, where they could say, oh, I was wrong, or not even, oh, I was wrong, oh, this new thing was happened. I was right the first time, and we're still gonna make it. Because then you're more likely. And the reason why they want to make you feel crazy like that, and be less informed, is because then they have more. Then they can get you to spend more time and read more of their articles and more ads. That's why they do that. So, and by the way, even left-wing journalists do this kind of stuff. There's bad journalists, even on the side that is not autocratic per se. There's a lot of them. And I'm going to read something from one of them. So, 3 refuses to look at obvious solutions to problems. So, in this case, it's going to be climate engineering, and I'm going to describe that because the goal is to make readers hopeless. 4 consists mostly of filler. It doesn't actually inform the reader all that much. Very repetitive. And 5, it examines things that you already understand. This is a little bit subjective, but if everything in an article, and you can skim them a lot of times and figure this out, it's not always perfect, but if everything in an article is something that you already understand, and they're trying to twist it into such a way where it is a hopeless story, then this is something that you can ignore. And so I'm going to apply all of those principles that I just read. I'm going to apply them to this article, and we're going to switch over to my screen. I'm going to capture my phone because it's easier. So look at that photo in the headline photo. First of all, they do this a lot in these kinds of clickbait articles, and real ones too. Yeah, that's what the whole world could look like if we don't fight back. But that is not what we were promised. Anyway, so bad climate news is everywhere. Well, not here, because this ain't news, really. And it talks about Africa. Yeah, I already knew that the poor places would die first. It's actually a little bit deceptive, though, because it would happen in a way that they're the canaries in the coal mine, but we would not be very far behind them at all. It's a foolish thing to believe that our wealth in the Western world would somehow save us from this. The greatest threat to white people, just as the greatest threat to black people and any other group that you want to think about, none of them really make sense genetically. The greatest threat is from global warming to every single group of people on this planet, regardless of skin color. So we are living in a world that's warming, blah blah blah. Governments are slow to act. Yes, of course we're around the peak of our warming speed. We're emitting about as much as we've ever emitted in terms of carbon. We've kind of plateaued over the past couple of years. And then also we just stopped burning heavy fuel on the open seas, which was sort of an unintentional geoengineering program that we've been doing for a while. And so we stopped that, and we also are at about the peak of our emissions. And so, yeah. Now, we've been at the peak of our emissions for 5 years, which is not very helpful. I was hoping and praying 4 years ago that we would start reducing them, and we didn't. And not in America, but this is the whole world we're talking about. We did not reduce them, and that's a shame. I wonder if there are things that we could have done differently. Maybe if we had better people in office, perhaps. But it was a miracle that we even had people that were as good as they were. Anyway, so governments have been slow to act. Yeah, no crap. And they're going to talk a lot about the COP 30 or whatever, the COP plans. And what I can say is, what is it that has even got us to this point? I'm going to do a little bit of positive deviance here. Positive deviance is look at the good examples and learn from the good examples. What was it that even got us to the point where we had stable emissions rather than rising emissions? Was it a plan? Was it an agreement? Was it anything like that? No. In our current state, no, that stuff doesn't matter. What is it that matters? What was it that did it last time? It was suffering. It was COVID. That's what did it. That is why we had why we have stable emissions, which means that we're warming as fast as we've warmed rather than we're accelerating. Now we're going to see how responsive things are when we start slowing our emissions pretty soon, which will happen. But that's going to be some time later. God willing. And he better be willing, because he made a bunch of promises. Anyway, so, blah, blah, blah. Treaties, plans. Only 25 countries have made a plan. Yeah, I know. Even the ones that do, they don't follow it unless God forces them to, with something like COVID. The nationally determined contributions set commitments. Yeah, commitments that we break if we're left to our own devices. Does it not? Let me say something. This is all old news that we break these commitments. Does it have to be that way? No. If we fix our social problems, then it does not have to be this way at all. But right now, like, let's have some radical acceptance. This stuff doesn't matter. If we can fix our social problems, and if we can have people that are competent in charge, who can give their people in democracies, who can give their voters a reason to live, then this will all change very quickly. And this stuff will matter. Like, I would spend, if I was president of the United States, I would be fixing a lot of these problems right now, the social problems that have made it so hard to act. And I'd be spending a lot of time in other countries doing this stuff. So, like, we're going to have these, but right now what we have to do is we have to suffer, and we have to kind of, and hopefully that will happen, but we have to suffer in a way that's constructive. Like, losing Medicaid is very different, which is something that makes us healthier and more able to deal with problems, is not the kind of suffering that I'm talking about. The kind of suffering that I'm talking about is about economics, and not being able to buy the things you want, and maybe not being able to go out for a drink, not being able to go out to the strip club, things that make people better, that grow people's character, not being able to buy the new computer you want to, even things that grow people's character. But that's what we have to do now, is suffer, and hopefully we will be soon. But not because I like suffering. I want us to have prosperity soon, but this will help us make it through, in spite of the Trump administration, in spite of the stupid decisions, self-proclaimed, in spite of the stupid decisions that we've made. So, okay, we are climate scientists. Okay, so you don't seem to be talking like climate scientists. People that really understand, the people that understand the best what's going on are the people that can explain it like a 5-year-old. But appeal to authority. It's based on calculations. Okay, good. You're looking at things and you're actually creating a model. A report also looks at how extreme temperatures and rainfall are intensifying, how much blah 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 impacts, how much can still be, what our budget is. Yeah, staying within 1.5 is essential. I agree. Staying somewhere under 2, like 1.5 or 1.7, is essential, and it's still very much doable, because it's about 2 degrees Celsius. That is the main issue. If we can keep the amount that we have earned through our emissions to 2 degrees Celsius, then 1.5 is within reach. And right now we're headed for somewhere between 2.3 and 2.7. And so, yes, we do have to do better. But we're in the ballpark of where we need to go. Close only matters when it comes to extinction. Close only matters in horseshoes and hand grenades. But we are close right now. And that means that there are things that we can do in the next presidential term if we're able to fix our problems, that are social problems, that will get us there. So, anyway, our report showed that human-caused warming reached 1.36. Yeah. And so we saw what an average year would look like in, say, 2050 with global warming. And there would be hot years compared to that, and cold years. But 2023, I believe, was a year that was like that. And so But and that is actually valuable in some cases because it's given us experience as to what has worked. But yeah, with the significant impacts. So that's one thing. Significant impacts. What does significant impacts mean? Significant impacts essentially means large areas of the world are going to be amputated from the world economy, which is going to involve mass migrations, and that will likely trigger. Al Gore talks a lot about this. That if that is allowed to happen, it will probably trigger nuclear war or something like that. And since industrial technology is all we've had left, I've described all this stuff in my previous video on global warming. Since nuclear war is takes away all of that stuff, all of our technology, as imperfect as it has been, it's got us here, but it's all we have left. And without it, we will not only not be able to reverse global warming and get back to something that's stable, but we will also be completely unable to adapt to it if adaptation was even something that was worth trying. It would be, regardless of that, it would be impossible if we went through a nuclear war. We'd have the nuclear winter, which would kill a lot of stuff too. And then when we came back, it would just never stop getting warmer. Not while we could see it. So, no. But this is what I talk about. So already at work, you've seen one, which is why would they even write this? Again, these people did the research. Let's say they did their homework. Why would they even bother writing an article like this if they really cared? So this is somebody that probably doesn't care. And I'm not saying that they're writing, again, this person says that they're a climate scientist. I'm not saying necessarily, I respect climate scientists. I'm not saying that they are doing this for money necessarily, but let's say they just don't care whether they're right or wrong. Or whether their writing is actually helping or hurting. That's still relatively untrustworthy if you have somebody that doesn't have those basic values. Like, values are even more important than expertise. But anyway, so you've already seen principle 1. Why would they even write it? Principle 2, which is they want to give you a vague sense of hopelessness so that you come back to them looking for comfort. They want to gaslight you and make you feel like you're crazy. And principle 3, which is their principles 3 and 4, which is they don't want to inform you. And we've even seen principle 5, which is that if you've watched my videos, you understand the gist of what my video on global warming. You already understand a lot of the gist of what position we're in right now, and it's not good. It's not a good position. I wouldn't say that we're exactly favored to win over this by statistically, but it's still a fightable, it's still a winnable fight. It's just not ours to lose, per se. But so last year's global so we've seen all of these in action right now, and the refusal to look at obvious solutions, that's really going to kick in. So although last year's global temperatures were high, they were alarmingly unexceptional. Continued record high, yeah, we're roughly at a plateau, which relatively is an achievement, because we still got plenty of oil. That's a discipline right there. So, rapidly eating into our carbon budget. Yeah, no. Less than 3 years at current levels of emissions. Yeah, for 1.5, if we deserve it. That was like 9 years at the beginning of the decade. So we've consumed it slightly faster than it has been there to consume. The window to stay within 1.5 is essentially shut. This is where we really get into principle 3, which is not paying attention to solutions. Because geoengineering projects of various kinds, both mitigation and actually cooling the earth down, are aplenty, and we could definitely invest in them. For instance, we could replace all of those aerosols that we stopped putting into the atmosphere with cruise ships, maybe replace them and then some. Even if we can bring temperatures back down in the future, it will be a long and difficult road. What is long and difficult road? What does that mean? This is why I wonder, do climate scientists really speak like this? What does long and difficult road mean? And yeah, there's difficulties that we're going to have to go through. We're probably going to have to pay some extra taxes to have to get this stuff removed from the air. And we'll be willing to, because we want to live. Life will be worth living. But this is, what do they even mean by that? They're just trying to, this is number 4, I think. This is principle, no, this is principle number 2. This is principle number 2. It would have been the last one on my list. This is in the community page. This is that they want to create more gaslighting. They want you to feel like you're crazy. So, basically, and so it goes on like this for a little while, but basically there, and then there's also things like sea level rise in particular. If they were going to mention that, which they haven't a lot, there's things like we can build barriers to protect the glaciers from the warm ocean water, because it's not air temperatures that are the problem with these glaciers, it's ocean temperatures. So we could create thermal barriers and help restrict the access of warm ocean water to these places, and that would buy us a lot of time. So, we need information. Yeah, I agree, we need information. And this 24-hour news cycle is not giving us information. It's time to face the hard truths. That means, no, we have to actually fix our politics. That's what that means. It's not something that you can just will into existence. You have to actually fix the problem. You have to offer people lives worth living, or otherwise they're not going to choose life. Anyway, governments need fast access. Yeah, well, people need fast access too, and that's not what the 24-hour news cycle is about. The 24-hour news cycle is about confusing people. So, basically, they describe a bunch of stuff that's going to happen, but they've already said that it's pointless. So I don't understand. only 10 of them have reaffirmed that they're trying to move away from fossil fuels. Yeah, that's a formality. They're either going to do it or they're not. So, yeah, basically, we just saw every single one of those 5 things in place. But you can see that in a lot of articles. You can see that in all kinds of doomer content. Even the phrase "we're cooked" is like a meme at this point. I'm gonna get back over to the video, to my mug in a second. You can see these same principles that I just described in articles about authoritarianism and all kinds of other things. A lot of Vlad Vexler content is like this, actually. I watch his channel. Sometimes he makes a bunch of good points, but he does this a lot. He says a lot of things, and for him, I really do think that it's unintentional, that if they were true, would mean the end of the human race. And he really seems to believe that he really seems to believe that there's something special about industrial civilization, and that we're not going to just lose it, even if he seems to think that we're not, that it's something that we're not going to lose, even if that we can endure a lot more than we think we can, but we can't really. This is kind of a fragile system, and he doesn't understand that. But a lot of people make this kind of content about a lot of different things. And it is content. It's to satisfy the 24-hour news cycle. And this is not what is owed to you. This is not what you all need to be participants in a democracy. It's not. What you... And this 24-hour news cycle is absolutely one of the main reasons. It's one of the main reasons why there's so much apathy about things like global warming, is because the news is designed to keep you reading it rather than to tell you what you need to know in order to learn. And that's why I started my channel, frankly, was because I started my channel because I knew that the news that was available from people like Midas Touch, and even the people that I listened to, it did not put things in context, and it didn't give that much. It didn't give people actionable advice. And a lot of the actionable advice was things like, that was implicit in what we were hearing, were things like take your own life or something like that, or give up in some other way, perhaps. Obey in advance. And I started this channel because I was just sick and tired of that, and I understood that nobody else was going to do this work if it wasn't for me. I wish I started it sooner, but that's why I did this. And understand, if that number really was 3 years, and she later said that the window was actually shut and things like that. When you say those kinds of things, you have to understand, with the presidency that we currently have, and the best case scenario, we're going to probably get some mild milquetoast Republican Speaker of the House. After every impeachment, after a general strike, after all we have to do, we're still going to have a mild, by today's standards, Republican somebody that's barely willing to accept the results of an election that they lose, that's going to be the person that we have in charge of the United States for the rest of the next 3 years at best. And so, no. When you say that kind of stuff, sorry, I just got my cat back and we have allergies. When you say that kind of stuff, it's profoundly irresponsible, because what it means, and she never actually had the decency to expressly say it, but what it would mean is that it's too late to fix these problems. And that's saying that kind of stuff. I don't care if it's true. I don't care if you think it's true. Saying that kind of stuff is, like, believing that kind of stuff makes you go crazy, but saying that kind of stuff is not how you win. And it is not how you win in a fight, which is what this is. This is a fight. Global warming is either going to be something that is consigned to the history books, or we're going to be consigned to the history books, which is actually, there ain't going to be history books. But we're going to lose, or it is going to lose. And it's just that simple. We like to think that things are so cynical and complicated, but it is just a simple fight of good and evil. In this case, a simple fight to the death. And you don't win by saying that kind of stuff. But the reason why I made this video was because I read that article and I was like, I wish I could respond to all of this clickbait. Or at least I could reassure you more by actually giving you updates every single time that I expect to, every week or so. And I haven't been able to do that because of all of this stuff related to my coursework, and I can't wait until I do this full time, which will be by the end of this year. But I decided to give you that because I want you to be able to do this to some degree without me. I still think that my expertise is useful, obviously, but I don't want any of y'all that are in a fragile place that really understand this stuff, or you're just naturally pessimistic. I don't want you, and this is myself, by the way. This was just, I created those principles to describe to myself why this was not something I needed to pay attention to. And it completely misunderstood what was going on. But I created this because I wanted you all to be able to limp along without me for however long you needed to, because I haven't been able to do what is frankly my duty, and to keep you informed, truly informed, and not just confused with information. And so I hope that these are helpful for you. I think I'm going to be seeing you tomorrow with a video about the redistricting, and finally with my reading of the last chapter of my paper. But if I don't, I'll tell you in the community page that I'm not going to be able to update. And God bless you all. I hope that we're able to have a good fight this week. Bring the fight to Trump and to all of these people, this whole cult. of self-deletion that is in charge of this country. I hope that we're able to bring the fight to them this week, and I wish you all good fortune, and I will see you at latest next week. Take care. Take care.